So you know that trend that you see on YouTube Shorts where you just have like a person standing in the frame and they're just like that, and each time they point to something there's like some text and it says some texts, and then maybe there's music playing in the background. Yeah, you know that trend? Well, I sent one of those videos to one of my friends this morning, and my friend gets the video and they reply saying, "Yeah, I saw who it was that was doing all the pointing. Like he didn't like the person in the video, and I immediately bounced off." And I was like, "Well, what the fuck, dude? You don't even know what it was about. This content that I'm sending you, I'm not sending you because of the guy in the video. I'm sending it to you because of the message in the video." And he just didn't even absorb the message because he was too caught up with who was giving it. And this baffles me, honestly. And since starting this channel, I've noticed that this is something that people have been doing a lot on my channel. And I'll give you an example. I have a video that I did a few weeks ago about Breath of the Wild and Elden Ring and kind of comparing the two together. And I said at the end of the video that, well, sometimes I'd play this one and other times I'd play this one. And neither is good or bad. They're both good games in their own ways. And some people ended up associating with one or the other. Some guy got like all tribalistic about Breath of the Wild and said, well, this is the best game. I'm like, dude, I didn't even say your game was bad. I love Breath of the Wild too. But anytime anyone feels like their sense of identity that they have tied to a game is threatened, they're going to behave this way. And it's just the more I do this channel, the more and more I notice it. It's like the Will Smith and Chris Rock thing that happened a couple, or I think it was yesterday on the Oscars, right? Where Will Smith like slapped the guy, and like all of these people are up in flames. Oh, this person's right. Oh, this person's right. No, this person's wrong. Team Will, Team Chris. Like, dude, the guy probably shouldn't have made the joke, and Will probably shouldn't have punched him. Like, you don't have to pick a side. It doesn't always have to be us versus them. Like, why is it like this? And I think this tendency is just something that's inherent in being human and built into us. And unless we work against it, this is kind of the default way that people are going to behave. And last night before I fell asleep, I listened to Charlie Munger's commencement speech that he gave at USC around 2007. Charlie Munger is Warren Buffett's business partner. And he says that you need to watch out for extreme ideologies, because if you ever get caught up in extreme ideologies, what it's going to do is turn your brain into cabbage. And he gave the example of those like television theologists and preachers who would go up and like have like very, very specific opinions about theology, and they crusade about their opinions, and they even disagree with each other. And the danger with this, he says, is the more and more you proclaim a creed or an ideology, the more you reinforce it in yourself, the more you reinforce it into your identity, and the more you associate yourself with it. And Charlie Munger also says that the human brain is kind of like the human egg. And what he meant is that the human egg, once a sperm gets inside to the egg kind of locks up and it doesn't accept anymore by default. And he says the brain does the same thing with ideas. You have a human brain, someone, gets hooked to a creed or an ideology or, a tribe, and then they kind of lock that in and they don't let anything else in, and they kind of just reinforce what they already have. And I've noticed that this happens a lot also in MMOs, and I think it makes sense for it to happen in MMOs because a lot of people who play MMOs are one game Andes. If you play WoW, you probably only play WoW. If you play Final Fantasy, there's a higher chance that that's all you play versus someone who plays like shooters. They might play some Escape from Tarkov, they might play some Call of Duty, they might play different Call of Duties, they might play Risk of Rain, they might go play Apex, and so it's less so the case with MMOs. They're more likely to just play one game and that's it. And I noticed that the meta right now, what gets the views, what gets the subscribers, what gets the engagement is Final Fantasy XIV good, World of Warcraft bad. Final Fantasy is, a gift from God, the perfect game. It has no flaws, and World of Warcraft comes from the depth of hell itself, and it's horrible, and it's the worst game ever. This is the narrative, Of course, I don't think that's true. Now, while I personally do think that Final Fantasy XIV is a better game than retail WoW right now, and that I like Final Fantasy XIV quite a lot, and I kind of don't like playing retail WoW quite a lot, and I've made a lot of videos about this. I agree. I completely agree. But to go around and say, well, this game is perfect and there's nothing wrong with it, and this game is horrible and there's nothing good about it, it's black and white, it's asinine, and it's not exactly the kind of tribe I want to build on this channel. But I did make this observation that if I went ahead and I made this channel, well, Final Fantasy good, WoW bad, period, and I just, honed that in over and over again, I agree with the statement. I do. But it's the tribalism behind it that takes me off. It's the tribalism behind it. It's the pitchforks, that is something that I don't stand for. And so if I wanted to really grow this channel really fast, expedite its growth, rack in the views, that's kind of what I would do. But I made a video a couple days ago saying, I'm not going to go down a path of doing one game or another or anything like that. I'm kind of just going to make content that I think is going to be valuable for my audience, right? And make the content good and meaningful. And although I would get short-term progress if I went down the path of Final Fantasy good and WoW bad, what would ultimately end up happening is I would cater to that sort of mentality, and I would get more and more people who want to rally behind someone who they can identify as a, poster child for their tribe, at the expense of any other tribe, at the expense of reason, at the expense of logic, at the expense of debate, and at the expense of holding two conflicting ideas in your mind and trying to find the truth. I've always been someone who values truth over comfort, over almost anything else. This is something that I've kind of, been pursuing since I was a kid in many different regards. And I'd rather know what's true than placate to what's comfortable if it's false. And so, will it slow down the growth of my channel if I were to take that approach of trying to be reasonable, of trying to not put any particular game on a pedestal and not demonize any particular game, and kind of look at things more objectively and analyze with a more level head what's good about them, what's bad about them, what I like, what I don't like about them? Although I think that would slow down the growth of my channel, because a lot of people in MMOs do seem, and this has been my observation, to be extremely tribal. I'd rather have that and end up in a position in the future where the people who watch this content are people who want to engage in honest discourse, in analytical discourse. And I'm not going to always be right. Of course not. No one is always right. And a lot of my viewers will tell me in my comments, yo, I disagree with this, I disagree with that, but I like your takes. And these are the kind of people that I want to have here. These people I think are reasonable, and it's vice versa. I might not always agree with them, but I respect their opinion. They respect my opinion, and we can have a conversation about it and reach some sort of consensus. And if we can't reach a consensus, at least we can understand opposing views without just immediately demonizing them and attacking them. And this is something that I've noticed in all other walks of life too. People do this with politics. People do this with celebrities. People do this with everything. But that's not going to happen here on this channel, even if it means slow growth in the short term. And that's all I had to say for this video. We will see you in the next one. Peace.